Congressman Michael Barker from Trumbull. I was actually in a video for one of your campaign launches. I was a big fan of yours. And you have this year lost my support. You cast 2 votes that I would love for you to talk about and explain if you can. One to censure Representative Green, and one to honor the bigot Charlie Kirk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, and thank you for the opportunity to I appreciate that. Look, and I heard an awful lot of feedback like that, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about both of those votes. Different. So Al Green, most of you will remember this. It was a number of months ago when President Trump was in front of a joint session of Congress giving an address. It was mayhem. And Al Green stood up, my colleague Al Green, colleague and friend, by the way, we sit kind of next to each other on financial services. Al Green stood up and for about 20 seconds just hollered at the president. In 2009, at President Barack Obama's first joint session of Congress, Joe Wilson shouted, "You lie," at Barack Obama. And when Joe Wilson did that, I voted to punish Joe Wilson because I just think the rules say that you conduct yourself appropriately and consistently with the way one would hope our legislature would conduct itself. And you don't get to break those rules just because you don't like the guy speaking. So because I voted to punish Joe Wilson, I don't know how I would have explained how it was okay for Al Green to put on a much longer and much more disruptive opponent simply because he was on my side. The gentleman said because he's a fascist. We do not, and I can't feel more strongly about this, we do not get to decide that the rules do not apply because we think the other guy is bad. And just because the other guy is not playing by the rules. For 2 reasons. Once the rules go away, once we all believe that the rules only apply to us, you know what happens? January 6th happens. Because on January 6th, 10,000 people who believed that the rules didn't apply to them showed up at my workplace, and we ended up with a bunch of dead police officers. So I feel very, very strongly that we do not allow ourselves to slip into this thing where the rules only apply to the other guy. And when the majority of my constituents want me to start breaking rules and want me to go into a chaotic world in which the rules only apply to the other team, I will find a different line of work, and maybe you'll force that. But I feel adamantly about the fact that no social movement, and I happen to believe, others will disagree, that standing up to Donald Trump is a social movement for the reassertion of the rule of law and constitutional prerogative. No social movement has ever won when it has not had the moral high ground. Anti-apartheid in South Africa. I could go on and on. Civil rights in the United States. Martin Luther King did not say it's okay to break the rule. By the way, he did. Civil disobedience, and this is worth spending a moment on. There's a long tradition of civil disobedience in this country, exemplified by Martin Luther King, and you all know that what civil disobedience is. You break an unjust law. Now, by the way, maybe the rules of decorum in the House are unjust or not just. That sort of doesn't rise to me to the level of, black people can't eat at the lunch counter. But then what happens? You break an unjust law, and you bear the consequences of doing so. So the people who argue that Al Green, that maybe he's making, by the way, Al Green was something of a hero of the civil rights movement. Al Green is breaking a rule he considers unjust. We could argue about that. But then he shouldn't bear any consequences? That's not in the tradition of civil disobedience. Okay. The other question was the Charlie Kirk resolution. So the Charlie Kirk resolution was a political trap that was set by the majority because it did this. It said some version of, I can't remember the exact verbiage, Charlie Kirk was an honorable man, Charlie Kirk was a good guy, Charlie Kirk. And then it had 2 pages of, and violence is completely unacceptable, and free speech is important. And I recognize what this was. This was precisely what you articulated. It was an attempt to try to get Democrats to vote no on the Charlie Kirk resolution so that they could run millions of dollars in ads saying that Democrats hate Charlie Kirk so much that they won't stand against violence. So I just said, you know what, I got important stuff to do, like healthcare, like Caribbean boat strikes, and I'm just not going to spend the next 6 weeks explaining page 3 and 4 of the Charlie Kirk. I'm not wandering into the trap that they set for me. So it did piss some people off. I got it. I don't agree with anything Charlie Kirk said. I also feel adamantly, based on everything I just said, which is Charlie Kirk has a right to say what he wants to say without fear of violence. So anyway, I understand both of those issues kind of pissing people off, but that's why I landed where I landed.